Oh, I'm an actual volunteer. I don't have to help. For the last 2 years, two friends and I have been volunteering for an event near us that raises money for a local club. We are not members, but a friend of ours is, and the organization didn't have enough members to manage everything, so we volunteered. It is actually for a pretty good local cause, although not local for us, it's for a town about an hour away. Members are required to do so many hours of volunteer work for the organization annually, at this event of one of their other events. Our job one year was taking tickets and handing out the goodie bags to the public. That was actually kind of fun. The next year was babysitting a tent where alcohol is served to make sure no one leaves the area with alcoholic drinks. We took the early shift starting at 7:30 am, understanding we would be relieved at noon and could then enjoy the event. We didn't get bathroom breaks, we asked, but were told we had to get someone to take our place, and no one ever showed up. We were standing in the doorways of a huge tented pavilion in 85-degree heat and never given water, and we were discouraged from getting it ourselves since it would mean leaving the entrance unattended. We were also one per entrance, so we didn't even get to talk to each other and could only text during the long periods when we were just standing there. At some point I was told off for checking a message on my phone. I was 44 years old, and told the person that they couldn't tell me when I could look at my phone. I was told I was going to be reported. This person held out their hand and told me to give them the phone and I could get it back when I was done for the day. I just said no, thank you, and put it in my pocket. I didn't respond further because my mother was long deceased, so who were they going to report my naughtiness to? I haven't been told off that way since I was a 12-year-old getting in trouble for not paying attention during class. I'm not a child, and that person was not my teacher or boss. I'm not handing off my expensive phone to a stranger to hold on to until I was done. When noon rolled around, we were told we couldn't leave yet because our replacements weren't there yet. One of us got relieved around 12:15, so we took turns relieving each other to use the bathroom and get water. At 12:30 I finally got tired of waiting and went to tell one of the organizers that we were leaving in 5 minutes and they needed to replace us now. At first they told us no, we needed to wait until more volunteers showed up and they might need us there for a while. I said absolutely not. We had stood next to the entrances for over 5 hours in climbing heat with no water and no chances to use the bathroom. We were not allowed to sit because it didn't look right. I'm only in my 40s, but I'm not willing to stand with no relief for hours on end. They found people but told us they were disappointed we couldn't stay until the end, which would have been after 9 at night. I told them we were never signed up for that long. I was told that our leaving early would be noted. So this year rolls around and I just now got an email giving me this year's assignment. I wrote and explained that I didn't sign up and I had other plans for the weekend. I don't, but I'm never doing it again. I got an email back telling me that it was non-negotiable, I had not yet volunteered at all this year, and that this year I needed to be more of a team player. They brought up my infractions from last year, which included looking at my phone around the public and leaving early. They also pointed out that I wasn't respectful to leadership of the organization when I was corrected about the phone because I said that I would keep my phone on me and would continue to check in with my friends when I wasn't busy. I was told that wasn't appropriate and wouldn't be tolerated this year. It took me an hour to just let all that soak in. I wrote back explaining with excruciating politeness that I was not a member and had never been a member. I also elaborated that I was not even a person who lived in their community to benefit from the event, but that I traveled to come and help because I thought it was a good cause. Apparently no one connected us to the friend who recruited us and I left her out of this. Then I outlined what went wrong last year. That as a 44-year-old I was not going to be told off for briefly checking a message from one of my friends asking if I needed water since I wasn't allowed to leave. That we signed up from 7:30 am to noon and were told that we were supposed to stay until 9 p.m, and then heavily guilt when we firmly said no. I further explained that as an unpaid volunteer I was treated very disrespectfully by leadership and was not planning to support the organization with my time going further, so please remove me from the list. I got an email back not quite apologizing, and saying that everything had been misunderstood because members understood they might be asked to stay late and everyone assumed my friends and I were members. I was also reminded that it was club policy to not have our phones with us during club events. The email went on to state that they already had my jobs assigned for August and it was important that I was there on time because otherwise I would be putting them in a hard spot. I wrote back and said that the rule about phones would not apply to me since I was not a member, had never been told about club rules, and wouldn't follow that one when I was in the situation they put me in. Further, I didn't want the club to suffer from any misunderstanding because if I did volunteer I would leave at the time I had agreed to because I would not even stay an extra 5 minutes this time and didn't want to have any issues for the club due to that. I added that the other 2 people I volunteered with were joining me in my plans that weekend and would not be able to help either. I signed off that I hoped everything went well, but that going forward if there were unpaid volunteers that were not required to spend a day working for free they should not treat them the way they treated us. I haven't heard back yet. Update. I received a lot of comments suggesting I do everything in my power to undermine or even get the organization shut down by reporting what happened. I also received a lot of creative suggestions of what I should have done, all of which was very petty and spiteful and which I may have done in another setting. However, this is an amazing organization that helps a lot of people in the community it serves. If I had flipped off the person who demanded my phone and got myself and 2 friends to abandon our posts, the event might have gotten fined or even shut down for violating liquor laws. If it was raising money for a club party, I would have done it and maybe even mooned them on the way out. But they use this money to support foster kids, homeless shelters, resources for the elderly, etc. They actively seek out needs that are not being met in their community and then work like hell to meet them. In no way would I want to be the one responsible for sabotaging that because I was having a bad experience with a couple of people on a power trip. I can suck it up and complain later. I have a spine, I stand up for myself. This one time I decided to defer because I care about other people more than myself sometimes. I also didn't just ignore and block, because I want to point out issues the club was having so that they can be fixed. I felt a moral obligation to do what I have done so far so I won't feel like I did nothing. Having said that, several people mentioned that I should probably let someone know outside of just the person who emailed me, so I followed up. I reached out to my friend. I don't want to put her in an awkward position, so I just prefaced it with something like, I want to make sure you guys aren't left short-handed by me and other 2 people not showing up if you're all expecting us. After last year we don't feel comfortable volunteering again. I forwarded the emails to her so she could follow up with the organizer. She told me that she understood and that they had actually had a conversation about what happened to us, and I guess to a couple other volunteers, after the event last year. She says she's going to email the club leader about the emails, and my friend is actually heading a committee that would let her confront the person who emailed me without overstepping her role. She plans to do that. She's really very annoyed because she thought they addressed this last year and is upset that previous volunteers are being harassed. It's not an excuse that they thought I was a member and therefore owed them hours. The tone and content of the email was not appropriate. The person who sent it is probably going to put in a different role. I received an email from the person I exchanged emails with saying that they didn't realize how it was coming across and they were trying to make sure people met the obligations they agreed to when becoming club members. I know it sounds like they were trying to reject accountability, but it came across as very sincere to me. The person who demanded my phone last year was told, gently because some people do know how to treat volunteers, she was under no circumstance to ever try and take someone else's property or she will not be involved in future events and may even be asked to leave the club. It's unlikely she will be put in a similar role this year. That was addressed after the event last year while it was still fresh, so I hope she learned from it. I was told that these concerns are going to be gone over with a handout at the first all-committee prep meeting and then will be gone over in detail at the meeting the week before the event where all the people in roles of authority are required to be there. The phone rule was actually to have phones away while interacting with the public, so if someone is trying to talk to you and you are not using the phone to answer their question, you are supposed to have it in your pocket, or at least not held up. I guess there was some surprise we were told not to sit down. The speculation is that one person said it looked sloppy, someone else thought it was a policy, and then it was a rule. It was not a rule, and this year there will be chairs with duct tape labels saying "volunteer" next to each exit. As for not getting bathroom breaks, that because there wasn't an extra person to relieve us and they are going to have one extra person assigned to each pavilion to help at an entrance if it gets too busy or give someone else a break as needed. They will also be able to get water for people. I was told they were also working to get fan misters for volunteers because a lot of the club members were worried about volunteers getting overheated. I had a bad experience with a couple of people, the vast majority are probably horrified by my experience. I'm satisfied with this. I think they will probably be successful in course correcting. I do have one other person I know who will be volunteering this year. If it's a good experience for them, I may come back for next year because I did have a blast the first year and would love to do it again if the issues from last year were resolved. Comments.
At an event we volunteered at, we were handed buttons to wear that said, "You can't yell at me. I'm a volunteer." I've also been known to tell people who make ridiculous demands like, "Give me your phone," that I checked with my mother and she said it was okay. Please note that I've been saying this since I was in my 40s and am now 73. Oh, I am going to remember that. I am going to use that often. I would have immediately told the person who asked for my phone to wait right here while I go to the loo and grab some water and walked off. After that I would have gone and let my friends do the same. If someone can come to chastise me, they can hang around while I take a quick break. Let her ask why I was gone so long. I'd happily tell her I stood at my friends' posts while they did the same. I am 63 and applaud you for your restraint. I would have walked away from my post the moment I was denied a bathroom break. But a grown adult human reaching their hand out to confiscate my phone for the crime of checking my texts, that fool would be lucky to have a hand. And for what? Babysitting grown adults who can't understand leaving the booze tent with alcohol was prohibited? Who would be an actual member of this organization? I have no more FS to give, and it is glorious. Glad you have joined me on the dark side. I would have simply replied with the middle finger, and not wasted time going into details for people who don't appreciate what volunteer meant before they treated you like entry-level employees. You're a better person than me explaining all that to them. You're a volunteer, not property. 5 hours and 85 degrees with no water, or bathroom and phone demands. You left at the right time.
Feeble attempt at seat stealing. Flying Charlotte to Cozumel, my wife and I always book 2 aisle seats, in this case, 7C and 7D. We are boarding group 5. There is a couple already settled in 7E and 7F when we get to our seats. No problem, my wife takes 7C, and I take 7D. A while later, 2 guys come on and say they are 7E and 7F. The seated couple say, oops, we're 7A and B. I know, it's hard reading the seat designator on the overhead bins. There is a lady in 7A that my wife asks what seat you are. She says 7A. The 2 guys are trying to be nice and let the couple stay together, but it turns out the couple are really 7B and 9E. Both middle seats. The guys say no way are they trading for that, and the couple shamefully move to where they are supposed to be. Entitled? Stupid? Cheap? All of the above? What is wrong with people? Comments.
A guy was seated in my window seat. I said that's my seat. He looked confused, and like he isn't gonna move until I keep staring at him. He moved to the aisle. Another guy comes up and tells the seat stealer he's in his seat. The guy again looks confused, and like he's not gonna move before getting stared down then moves. He had the middle seat. I figure he does this all the time, and some people don't like conflict and take another seat. Not pushing back gives people a sense of entitlement and to do it again. Edit. Thank you, kind stranger, for the award. I think it's my first one. Smiley face. I'm developing the belief that if we don't push back against bad behavior, it will become the norm. Yesterday, I was in a restaurant with some friends. One of the men got up to use the restroom. There were 2 gender-neutral restrooms and a few people waiting to go. One door opened, and a young woman zipped past the line and went in. We all saw what happened. My friend returned to the table, and I asked if the line jumper had said, "Excuse me," or "Sorry, it's an emergency," but apparently she said nothing. So I marched over when she emerged and said, "Shame on you for cutting the line to the bathroom." She looked at me like I was crazy. Maybe I am, but if I can safely object, I will say something every time. A man cut in checkout line in front of me and my daughter. My 7-year-old said, "Bad man, you need to wait your turn." He sheepishly went back of the line and daughter got ice cream. I had a guy do that to me years ago when I was with my baby. Is this how you do? Jump in front of someone with a little baby? I asked him. I didn't even have a lot of stuff. I have to go to work, he said. Like I don't. I said, I suppose you would think it okay if someone did this to your mother. I told him. Don't you dare talk about my mama. He said. He was very upset about it. Nobody came to my defense because he was kind of aggressive. I had a situation recently when a couple tried to get me and another aisle and first to move for them to sit next to each other. We both declined as we prefer the aisle to the window. The wife then loudly complained to their tween daughter, sitting 2 rows ahead, that, "I can't believe they won't switch. You know how stressed mommy gets on flights sitting by a stranger. I might go see if your brother wants to switch from premium so I can sit next to grandma." Surprise, surprise, she didn't try that. Managed to sit alone just fine. Hubby ignored everything after the initial ask. Found out during the flight they were all upgrades to first, while the other gentleman and I bought our seats specifically.
My backyard is not a public park. So this happened years ago, but I was thinking about it recently and thought it belonged here. I grew up in a very small town in the mountains of upstate New York, which happened to be a summer spot for a ton of people coming from the city. Every year we would have thousands of people who did not live their year-round stay for some or all of the summer. Our house was on a small local lake that had an ice cream shop on the other side of the lake from our house that would rent out rowboats for people to enjoy the lake. This usually wasn't a problem, people are free to enjoy the lake all they want. One summer I went out to my back porch in the morning and there was a rental rowboat tied to our dock and a family having a full-on picnic on our lawn while their kids used my old swing set. There are multiple, "No trespassing," and "Private property" signs on the dock BTW. I was a little shocked, and home on my own as a 15-year-old girl, so also uncomfortable, and informed them it was private property and they'd have to leave. The father told me they'd be done with their picnic soon and I should go back inside so they could enjoy their morning in peace with their kids, and I was the one disturbing them. I told him it wasn't a public park and they needed to leave immediately, and he said if we don't want people using our yard like a park then it shouldn't look like one. I'm guessing he meant the swing set. I ended up calling the police and they were told to leave the property while the husband argued the entire time. Entitled pharmacy tech couldn't be bothered to communicate with a deaf man. I was sitting inside waiting for a prescription when I see a man approach the counter. In a loud broken voice, he said, "I am deaf. I am going to need you to write on this paper for me to understand you." He handed her a pen and paper and continued to ask about his prescription. Without looking up from her computer the entire time, she says, "Okay, and what's your name and date of birth?" He goes, "Huh? I can't read lips, I need you to write it down," and pushes the pen and paper closer. She just looks at him and says it slower. He again explains he can't read lips well, guesses and gives her his name. She says, date of birth, again, without even looking up, and at this point I'm just flying out of my seat. I walked up to the counter, tapped the man and smiled, and told the technician, do you understand this situation? He doesn't know what you're saying. I opened the notes app on my phone and apologized for the ignorant technician and asked if he would let me help. At this point the technician goes, all right, and starts the write down on the paper he gave him. When the man realized she was finally communicating with him, he thanked me and said he would be okay. It was so surreal to me. Like how the fuck is someone that entitled to not be bothered to write something down for a moment? That man was such an amazing human, he was still so kind to her after all of that. Edit, I didn't want to reply to each comment about this, but I did report her to the store manager. I hope they took the right steps, I didn't report her further. This was a month or so ago, I'm going to try to get her name and report her to the correct agencies. Entitled shopper tries pushing her empty cart into mine as I'm still packing up my car at Walmart. I was at Walmart a while back and I was putting my purchases away in my car. Out of the corner of my eye I see a woman approaching and she attempted to push her cart into mine saying, all set. Luckily I was able to quickly catch the other cart and walked over to her leaving the cart in front of her car before she can drive away. The woman yells to move the cart and all I did was point to where the cart collection area of the parking lot is as I walked away. The woman screams, do your fucking job. I just continue to ignore her once I get back to my car and finish loading my car, put my cart in the cart, return and leave. The woman never left her spot and was screaming so many vulgar words everyone in the parking lot could hear her. Update, for some who I have seen comment saying they were curious to the age of the woman, she was in her early 30s. Comments.
Sounds like this entitled lady has an ongoing anger issue. Maybe she's a bit irrational too. Do your FCKNG job. So were you wearing a blue vest that day, or did she just decided to volunteer you to work at Walmart? I was shopping with my kid while wearing a blue shirt under a bright purple coat and using a Mart card at Walmart a few years ago. They had just rearranged a few aisles, and I was just trying to compare cold meds when this random woman asks where the candles were. I gesture behind her and continue my shopping, and she got nasty with me. You're supposed to show me. I was like, why would I do that? Because I hadn't been a Walmart employee in just about forever, and it never occurred to me that she thought I worked there, given all the context clues. It is literally your job. My kid, love them to bits, was like, we don't work here, why do you think we do? And this woman was startled into silence and stormed off. I am pretty sure she never clocked anything outside of the sliver of dark blue I was wearing, not even a full-grown adult shopping 2 feet away from her having a conversation with me. That's absolutely ridiculous. I have been shopping and had a nice elderly lady with a walker approach me while I was in the vitamin aisle. She asked if I knew where the ibuprofen was. It was the next else over, so I walked her over there. Then she asked if I knew where the Miralax was, and I showed her that as well, but she didn't think I worked there. She just needed help and wasn't able to get around easily, so she couldn't go find help. She thanked me multiple times. I've also been shopping and heard a couple asking a busy employee where certain moisturizer was. The lady was trying to stock stuff and was busy, so I told them I could show them because it's the same stuff my husband uses. That way the employee could get stuff stocked and move on to whatever else she had to do. Some people have no class and are too entitled to realize not everyone everywhere is there to serve them.
No mate, we're not moving people so you can sit together. Not sure if this was entitlement or plain stupidity, but here goes. About a decade ago, my then girlfriend, now wife, and I took a trip through New Orleans, Memphis and Nashville. Cool trip and a welcome change of scenery from a cold and rainy London. With my girlfriend being a big country music fan and Nashville being a favorite TV show of hers, we thought we'd give getting into the Bluebird a crack. So, there we are in the queue, doing the same as the people around us, counting off how many are in front of us and doing the maths for whether we get in, and it was close. We thought we were 2 people out, so we needed someone to walk off. Enter the entitled/stupid people in front of us, from California judging by the accent/what they were saying, a group of 6, get beckoned in as there's 6 seats left. On the way in they ask, they're all together, right? No mate, at an incredibly busy, very popular venue, they're not holding 6 seats together for walk-ins. But we want to sit together. Can't you move other people around? Bouncer looked confused, like someone had tried to explain Norway to a dog. Gave the message that the seats were where they were and it was take it or leave it. Group continued to implore for others to be moved to accommodate them, not getting the message that it's just not happening. Thankfully, they fucked off after about 10 minutes of this, meaning that my girlfriend got a bucket list item ticked off and I gained boyfriend points for taking her there. They on the other hand blew a chance to go to an iconic venue because the venue wouldn't bend to their wishes. Morons. Entitled politician stunned when voters remind him in the primary that he needs to do the will of the voters, not the will of data center developers. The guy from Shark Tank, Kevin, is building a new AI data center in the Utah desert that is planned to about double the power consumption of the entire state with just his one project. Enter State Senate President Stuart Adams, bonus story at the bottom, longest-serving Senate president in the state's history. His support was instrumental in getting the project going with state financial and other support. The locals and people statewide were opposed, but he charged ahead anyway. Becoming the first sitting Senate president to lose in a primary election, he declared that his data center suppery cost him the election, but the only thing he would do differently was demand the state explain why they were forcing it down everybody's throat. Two Box Elder County commissioners who supported the 40,000-acre project also turned the primary from what is usually a formality into inglorious defeats. Maybe the new data center's AI can help them figure out why. Bonus story, Stewart's 18-year-old granddaughter was charged with a rather severe penalty for having sex with a 13-year-old and was facing 50 years in prison. Being responsible and ethical, Stewart recused himself from any legislative action related to the charges. He did, however, call his friend the Senate Majority Leader and had a friendly conversation about how harsh and unfair this law was. 18-year-olds who have SEC with 13-year-olds should be treated just as leniently as 17-year-olds. The Majority Leader called up the granddaughter's lawyer and asked how the law would have to be altered in order to cut her some slack, then promptly passed that bill. To ensure that nobody could claim the bill was passed to benefit her, they made it not retroactive so it wouldn't benefit her. Then the DA said, "I know this law change doesn't technically apply, but the will of the state legislature has been made clear," and turned a mandatory 25 to life with mandatory sex offender registration into 8 days in jail, 517 days of house arrest with an ankle monitor, 4 years of probation, a $1,500 fine, and no sex offender registration. Oh, Utah. My dad's GF thinks I have my monthly lady time to spite her. Warning: if you find the talk of menstruation gross. It's not graphic, but it's there, so. Okay, I'm gonna be so honest, I'm so heated RN, so if I make spelling mistakes my bad, I'm rage typing LOL. But a lot of my friends who ID vent to are night shift workers, so I'm not gonna wake them up. Anyway, I went on a short holiday for Father's Day with my family and I've been having issues with him because he's dating an actual demon and it's awful, but that's another story. Anyway, again boys, if you think periods are gross please flee the scene. I have a heavy flow, and when she's here she is here, if you know, you know. And obviously when Auntie Flo's in town I'm not having the best time ever, and sadly she currently is. So Elle stayed at my grandparents' place cause grandpa only has so long left and we are doing a family thing, and I was on my period and showed up because duh, and I unfortunately left a stain on the sheets I was sleeping in. Granny don't care, but my dad's beloved demon spawn of a girlfriend brought the bed sheets, that were in the laundry room, into the living room on Father's Day to shame me for being gross, and tried to embarrass me. Such a sweetheart. Anyway, Granny went nuts, kicked her and my dad out, and they are both banned from everything. He'll maybe be welcomed back if he writes an authentic apology note and dumps her, but he's a loser so I doubt it. Why I posted to entitled people? Oh, because she told my grandma I had my period in my granny's house to spite her for her menopause and that I was taunting her and that I was trying to mock her for her infertility. I swear you guys I'm not exaggerating or making this up, that was legit what she said. Like, can you tell the period fairy to shut TS off please? I will gladly co-sign. Also, why are you checking my bed sheets when we are both grown adults not sharing a room? Weirdo. Thanks for watching my video. Please like it and subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories.